The content of this presentation is proprietary and confidential information of the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative. It is not intended to be distributed by any party without the written consent of the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative. Attendees should note that the educational component of this session is being recorded and will be published on the Collaborative's website and YouTube page. To maintain complete confidentiality, an announcement will be made before recording begins, and only the presenter will be identified during the recording. Therefore, to ensure anonymity, all attendees are asked to mute their microphones until an announcement is made that the recording is complete. Presentations are intended for educational purposes only and do not replace independent professional judgment. The ideas expressed in this presentation are the professional opinion of the presenter and do not represent those of the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative or its constituents. Before acting on any of the information presented, attendees should consider the appropriateness of the information as it pertains to their individual situation and seek independent professional advice should any concerns arise. If you or someone you know are in what is believed or perceived to be a situation that may become harmful, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline via phone at 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233, or through their website, thehotline.org, or dial 911 in the event of an emergency. With that, I welcome Kellie O'Dare this evening. We're so grateful to have you. She is going to take the opportunity to introduce herself, and then we will have our growth educational session together. Thank you so much for being here, Kellie.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. Can you all see the PowerPoint presentation on the screen? I just want to make sure I have my screen up right. Okay, wonderful. Yep. All right, well, good evening. I am excited and honored to be here tonight. Thank you again to Michelle, to Mark, to Dustin, and to the collaborative for all you do and continue to do for our first responder community, and for allowing us the opportunity to join you this evening. I want to take a minute to say thank you to all of our attendees as well for taking the time out of your busy evening and your busy lives to join us. I wake up every day grateful to do this work, and I'm continually humbled that each of you would allow me and this work into your space. As Michelle mentioned, I'm Kellie O'Dare Wilson. My day job is I'm a faculty member at the Florida A&M University in the Institute of Public Health in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm also the founder and the co-director of the Second Alarm Project, which I believe somebody dropped the web link to our website in the chat. And I will also put that up on the screen so you can have more information about that later. The Second Alarm Project is a behavioral health program for first responders. Primarily, we are serving firefighters right now, but we are expanding. And we are in the Florida Panhandle primarily, but we also would love to expand statewide and even nationwide if that opportunity avails itself to us at some point. And we can talk a little bit more about that project if we have some time at the end of the conversation. So Michelle, I see somebody entering the room, and I'll just go ahead and admit if it pops up on my screen unless you tell me otherwise. Okay, so the health and wellness of our first responders is particularly important to me because in addition to my more formal roles in first responder wellness, I'm also the spouse of a first responder. I am a fire wife. I also grew up with family members in the fire service, and I wanted to take a minute to share some of my perspective with you on what being the family member of a first responder means to me. In my experience, it's an honor and a privilege that is full of joy and pride, but at times it can be a challenge fraught with frustration, some disappointment, and the potential for some very deep pain. As many of you are aware, first responders take an oath to their department, to their brothers and sisters, and to their communities. An oath up to and including that he or she would lay down his or her life for another, even a stranger. As Michelle mentioned, I am also the family member of a line of duty death in the fire service, so I am deeply aware on a very personal level of the risks that our first responders are exposed to and the challenges that come along with knowing that your family member would, without hesitation, make the ultimate sacrifice for another. While we don't want to focus on the fears and the challenges and the frustrations, it's absolutely necessary that we acknowledge and validate and start to normalize some of the conversation around these issues, just as we have begun to do with mental wellness among our first responders. We've come a long way in the last 10 years, heck, in the last 2 to 3 years, with bringing first responder mental wellness and substance use issues out of the shadows and into the forefront of this community. But we still have a long way to go. An important area that needs continued focus and development is the resources for our first responder families. Programs like the collaboratives, family and caregiver connection are few and far between, and we need more of those. Much of the small amount of work that has been done in the area is really within the context of educating first responder families on how to better support their first responder, which is incredibly important. But fewer resources are focusing specifically on the needs of that family member themselves. We do know, however, that if a first responder is struggling, it is highly likely that that whole family system, including the spouse, the children, the parents, anyone else involved, has needs that we must address as well to be successful. This is becoming more and more apparent, especially here recently to me, but I truly believe that if everyone took care of each other as well as first responders take care of each other, the world would be a better place. And it's time to bring that same concept of peer support, or tending and befriending, as our clinical friends like to call it sometimes, into our first responder families. There's a saying that I'm pretty sure you all have heard, something to the effect of, first responders are the first to rush in to help, but the last to ask for help. And our families shared that similar characteristic. On the screen here is a quote from Taya Kyle. She's a military family activist and the widow of US Navy SEAL Chris Kyle from the movie fame American Sniper. And her quote reads, "I think that that's so true for a lot of first responder families and military families. If you ask them, is there anything I can do for you? They almost always will not ask for that help." So if asking for help is hard, then asking for help during the most wonderful time of the year might be absolutely impossible. The holiday season is a joyous time for many, but not for everyone. This time of year can be particularly challenging to those already experiencing some personal and family stressors. In fact, 8 out of 10 US adults reported that the holidays are the most stressful time of the year for them. Nationwide, mental health issues, suicides, hospitalizations, and substance use issues spike during this time of year. Increased financial demands, stressful family dynamics, lack of healthy habits, and other strained resources can really increase stress. Unfortunately, this year's holiday season could be particularly challenging because, must we say anymore, it is 2020. So there's no telling what we might expect. I would like to share this letter to Santa that was posted on Law Enforcement Today and read to us by a close personal friend of mine who also happens to be a law enforcement officer. And I'm going to go ahead and click play, so hopefully everybody will be able to hear it. And if not, somebody just holler and let me know.
Dear Santa, I'm writing a wish list to you because I still believe. I've tried to be good this year. I've tried to be a helper to others. I've saved some lives. I've also lost some. I tried hard and gave it my all. And while I hope the good will outweigh the bad, please know that I don't give myself a pass. Those are the stories that keep me up at night. The couple in the accident, the child in the pool, the old lady in the crosswalk. I'm not perfect. No officer is. But I hope that when it comes time to be judged, you'll see what was in my heart. And with that in mind, I give you my Christmas wish list. A few hours with my wife and children on Christmas morning. It's been years since I've been able to see the Christmas joy in their faces as they open gifts, because I'm always at work. A holiday bonus. I work 70 hours a week, and my wife busts her butt to take care of the kids. But the furnace is starting to go, the garage door is stuck open, and our minivan is all but held together by duct tape. I'm grateful for the 63-degree temperatures. We're able to keep the house and for a meager meal. But I wish my police salary could help me provide more for my family. God knows they deserve it. A new vest. Our department doesn't issue vests to us, and mine probably should have been replaced 5 years ago. I'm scared that the one I have will be the result of me not coming home to my family one day. A change of heart from the media. They seem to truly believe that we're here to hurt and not to help. They don't understand us because understanding us would mean headlines that don't bleed. Patience for my children and protection for their hearts. For all their dance recitals and soccer games that I miss. For all the holidays I'm not home for all the family meals I've never been there for. Please don't let their hearts be hardened. Help them know that I'm doing this because of my love for them. Protection for my wife. Every day she says goodbye to me, and every day there's a chance it will be the last time. Her sacrifices are those that no woman should have to make, and yet she makes them selflessly every single day. Please protect her heart and protect her home. Politicians who actually represent us and don't use us as disposable political pawns. Those of us who hold a thin blue line are under constant attack by those who are more concerned with those who are here legally than those who are tasked with protecting all Americans. Discernment, to know good from evil, right from wrong, to be able to see into the hearts of those around me. Community. I wish everyone understood we're here for them, regardless of whether they're black or white or Hispanic, gay or straight, Democrat or Republican, Christian, Jewish or Muslim or atheist. Training. Everyone likes to talk about police officers' mistakes, but our department can't afford to provide proper and regular training for us. And God knows we can't afford it on our own. Please give me training along with a steady hand. Faith. In those dark moments when the demons are surrounding me, in those painful times where I can't see the light, in those hours where all I can feel are the burdens of my mistakes, help me find the faith in God and in my country and my fellow man. Brotherhood for my department. We're stressed and overworked and underpaid and fractured and frequently tied by politics versus policing. Please don't let this divide us. Please help our brotherhood to grow, not be destroyed. Home. Please, Santa, bring me home safe to my family each and every night. Please never take me from my very family I'm trying to so desperately to provide for and keep safe. For others to believe as well. Not just in you, Santa, but in America, in God, in those who hold the thin blue line, in our fellow Americans, and in the idea that together we can overcome everything. I believe, Santa. I believe. I believe. Dear Santa.
As that letter highlights, first responders have unique challenges year-long that they carry into this time of year. And no, I don't mean rescuing Santa from the rooftop up there, although that might happen. Given that stress from the overall population increases, calls for help also increase during this time. We see a predictable increase in call volume, particularly difficult calls and critical incidents. The days are shorter and sunlight is less prevalent. We aren't eating as well or being as active as we should. We are drinking more, we're sleeping less, and family issues may be increasing anxiety. This year brings particular challenges to many of us due to COVID-19 and civil unrest. I read a quote that I believe captures this time of year for first responders well. This is a tough time for first responders. We will respond to car wrecks containing both bodies and Christmas gifts, cardiac arrests during family dinners, suicides for the people where this isn't the happiest time of year, drug overdoses, murders, and sexual assaults. And when the shift is over, we will return to our families, act like none of it happened, and try to enjoy the holiday season. We also know that returning home to act like none of it happened increases problems in our first responders and in our families and households. First responders miss holiday events and experience sadness from the absence of their family member. Children may fear for their parents' safety more prevalently during this time of year. And the increased call volume to difficult calls may also increase mental health symptoms in your first responder, which might be particularly difficult to deal with, especially for those of us who are really reluctant or aren't too skilled in asking for help when we need it. The holidays can also increase other challenges with shift work, disruptions in our normal routines, child and parenting schedules, and the inevitable household issues. I always joke that this photo at the bottom left of the slide of the plumbing blowing up is actual live feed from my household every third day. Well, I'm being slightly dramatic, it's not, but it feels like that most of the time. Invariably, if the toilet is going to blow up, dinner is burning, the kids are hungry, the cat is puking, the dog's incontinent, and there's a snake on the porch, it's all going to happen in the first 2 hours of that 48-hour shift. Now that we've discussed some of the unique stressors of the holiday season on first responders and us family members, let's transition into some strategies for dealing with those challenges. One definition of stress is that it's the body's reaction to any change. This can be positive or negative, that requires an adjustment or a response. For this particular discussion, we're going to talk about two types of stress, chronic and critical. Chronic stress are issues that you deal with in everyday life and can include things like your finances, your work life, relationships, or personal health issues. We all deal with these stressors on a daily basis in one capacity or another. Chronic stressors are always there, and we can adjust them up or down, kind of like a dial. Critical stress, on the other hand, are those major events that often happen unexpectedly, hopefully more rarely, that can really tax or supersede our ability to cope, which can end up causing a full-blown crisis if we're not careful and we don't stay ahead of it. The goal here is to keep our levels of chronic stress as low as possible. Everybody's baseline is going to be different, but we want to keep those levels of chronic stress as low as possible. So inevitably, when we do experience critical stress, our stress levels do not exceed our coping strategies. Our good friends at the Readiness Group, who do amazing work with first responders out in Texas, have developed a wheel to help you think about how to reduce chronic stress. The bottom line to reducing chronic stress is important. It's learning, practicing, and adopting good habits in the following 8 areas: physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, social, vocational, financial, and environmental. I know that sounds like a lot, and really it is. It can be overwhelming. The key is picking one area and focusing on learning new or improved habits for that area. And if you haven't picked up Atomic Habits and started reading it yet, do it. Take finances, for example. If you aren't strong in this area already, maybe work on adopting a budget and a savings plan, so when the plumbing blows up or your furnace goes out, it doesn't turn into a critical stress situation where you have an urgent need and you've exhausted your available resources. Or maybe you're already particularly skilled in one area. Say you take really good care of yourself physically, but you want to spend more time developing habits to balance yourself across your spiritual or emotional areas. Balance here is the key, and it takes time and effort and practice and investment in yourself. This all sounds incredibly simple, but really it takes a lot of practice. Some of this may sound like the all too familiar term of self-care. That word has always been a bit of an abstraction to me, quite honestly. And then recently, somebody told me they likened the term self-care to nails on a chalkboard, which I thought was a really profound statement and made a lot of sense to me. It was one of those light bulb moments that just made a lot of things come together for me. It reminded me of one of my favorite sayings, which is, help is not help unless it's helpful. So these stress reduction techniques go far beyond the concept of self-care and include learning and habituating real strategies and techniques to make daily improvements in your stress levels. Think of this as tactics and training for your emotional survival. It's also important to note doing this stuff is extremely difficult if you or your family member is already in a crisis state. That's when you may need some additional resources, which we're going to talk about here in a bit. There are a lot of really good chronic stress reduction strategies out there, but if I had to pick one and only one to focus on tonight, it would be prioritizing sleep. May sound really simple and like a no-brainer, but first responders and their families in particular are susceptible to poor sleep and all of the negative consequences associated with that. I really cannot overstress the importance of good sleep. Good sleep regulates almost every important process in the human body. For example, you've likely heard that cardiac events are the top killer of firefighters, both on and off duty. Sleep deprivation increases the risk of a cardiac event by 46%. Research also shows that blood pressure and stress hormones are consistently elevated for quite a while, up to almost 72 hours, the night after one night of bad sleep. Routinely sleeping less than 6 to 7 hours can double your risk of some cancers, and consistently waking between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., hello firefighters, reduces your cancer fighting immune cells, your natural killer cells, by 70%. Two resources on sleep that I strongly recommend are first the book Why We Sleep by David Walker, that blue book over there in the right-hand side of your screen, the photo of it. Also, a great overall book for firefighter families is called Challenges of the Firefighter Marriage. It's a great overall book, but in particular, chapter 11 is titled How to Sleep with a Firefighter. And not only is it a fun way to get everyone's attention when you start talking about it, it also covers some of the challenges and solutions for those of us who sleep share with a firefighter. One quote from that book that I'm particularly fond of is, firefighters is just as tough to get to sleep as the average 2-year-old, so be patient. Another go-to tactic is mindfulness. Look, I'm a quantitative researcher by training, so when I started learning about this stuff myself and then considered walking into a room full of cops and firefighters to try to teach them about it, I was really skeptical. But there's a ton of science out there on this. In fact, some of it's even considered to be evidence-based, specifically a technique called mindfulness-based stress reduction. Yes, that's a real thing. And there are lots of resources online about how to get started. For someone like me, who is usually heavily overcaffeinated and my brain is going a million miles an hour all the time, mindfulness takes a lot of practice, but it works. Simple strategies such as tactical breathing are effective, and I've also learned that if you put the word tactical in front of anything, you're more likely to get a first responder's buy-in and attention. Something super easy to get you started with this is the 4-4-4 technique, the 4-4-4 breathing technique. That's a deep, slow breath in to the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, Slow breath out to the count of 4. What's really cool about this is it can be done anywhere, anytime, without anyone even knowing you're practicing a stress reduction technique. My teenager even uses this technique regularly, and he has approved this message. I do want to mention, if you are living with certain mental health issues, such as severe PTSD, please use meditation with caution. If it feels anything more than slightly uncomfortable when you're starting it because it's something that is new to you and you're learning it, don't force it. It may not be the right strategy for you. I also want to mention a couple of other resources. Heart Math is a great evidence-based stress reduction technique. You can Google them and find that online. They have some paid programs, but they are actually free right now due to the state of the world. They're offering some of their trainings for free. And another app that I've recently found that I highly recommend is called PTSD Coach. It was developed by the VA. It has some great mindfulness resources in it, and it's not just for those with PTSD. Anybody can use those resources. We have discussed several of these already, but I wanted to focus on here is the third bullet. Be open to adopting new family traditions. Focus on the meaning of the holiday and not necessarily the date itself. For example, one creative family started sending a note from Santa to the kids about how the gifts would be specially delivered on Christmas Eve instead of Christmas morning for their family, so Dad could be home when they arrived. And if you have any other good strategies or traditions, please drop them in the chat and share them with us. We would love to learn and share those with others. So hopefully you'll be getting good at keeping your chronic stress low, so when critical stress happens, our coping resources won't be exhausted. This pyramid outlines strategies to process more of that critical stress. We want to spend as much time at the bottom 2 layers of this pyramid to the greatest extent possible. Things like using our breathing, getting good sleep, etc. However, in all likelihood, we're going to have things that come up that tax our resource systems and ways of coping. Just as if you can manage certain physical ailments at home without care until they exceed your ability and you need to reach out to an expert for help, it's the same thing with your mental wellness. So I would like to focus on the next few layers: peer support and professional counseling or therapy. Peer support is not just for first responders. We all need to have a network of resources, families, friends, trusted community members we can reach out to as needed. We should be brave in both asking for and giving help when needed. Sometimes, though, peer support isn't enough. And when it's not, we need to know that it's okay to reach out for professional services. We need to know what resources are available before we need to access them. And while we still have a lot of work to do in improving healthcare provider proficiency and working with our first responders and families, please do not let stigma or fear prevent you from reaching out for these services when needed. And the collaborative has taken a lead role in trying to shore up and capacity build providers who are first responder proficient in our communities, and we only hope that that will continue to grow. On the note of giving and receiving help when needed, I want to close this evening with a quote from Simon Sinek. I usually play his version of it when I share it, but I'm going to try to read it myself tonight. Hopefully I can get through it without tearing up. But I'm a crier and a hugger, so quarantine has been real tough for me, y'all, on both accounts. So here we go. All right. The world is too dangerous and difficult for you to think you can do these things on your own. Who are you going to ask for help? And are you going to accept help when it's offered? Learn that skill. Learn by practicing helping each other. It will be the single most valuable thing you learn in your entire life. to accept help when it is offered, and to ask for help when you know you can't do it alone. The amazing thing is, when you learn to ask for help, you will discover that there are people all around you who have always wanted to help you. They just didn't think you needed it because you kept pretending that you had everything under control. And the minute you say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm stuck, I'm scared, I don't think I can do this, you will find that lots of people who love you will rush in to take care of you. But that will only happen if you take care of them first. Thank you again to the collaborative and to each of you for having me this evening. I'm humbled and grateful to do this work and to be part of your lives in a very small way. Please don't hesitate to reach out if I can answer any questions. And here on the screen is my contact information, as well as our website for the Second Alarm Project. And it looks like we have somebody who's adding some notes on the screen as well. And I'll go ahead and kick it back out to either Mark or Michelle so we can open it up for discussion.
First of all, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. What a great discussion. Between crying myself at the beginning, recalling some difficult calls I've been on during the holidays, to learning that I'm likely going to die fairly early. But then really sitting back and realizing everything you said is coming not only, again, from a place of education, but experience. Everything you said was so spot on. It's ridiculous. And it really rung true and sang to my heart this evening. I hope everybody here felt the same way. So thank you so much for all of this. That said, we are still recording, and I'd like to open the floor to anybody who's willing and wants to ask questions on the recorded line. You can either take yourself off mute, throw a question in the chat box. But again, this part of the collaborative was started for the exact reason that Kelly pointed out at the end, and that was that peer support reason, to be able to just discuss things confidentially and to provide love and support for each other. And who better than Kelly and the rest of you here to do that this evening. So that said, anyone who has questions, if you want to take yourself off mute, and if not, I will shut down the recording and we can continue the discussion.
Kelly, I just wanted to definitely thank you for sharing, the different holiday suggestions. We, as a fire wife and 2 little kids, we've had to, maneuver things with, for instance, we haven't had Christmas Day yet, knock on wood, but we've had Christmas Eve. So he wanted to see their face in the morning. So I posted what we had done, and we had brought the kids into my room. They slept with me, and then a breakfast basket into our room, and we watched Christmas movies. And then when Daddy got there, he knocked on the door, and then they could come out. So we've learned to do that. I think this year I've been quite frustrated because it's 2020. And so we've made things work. We've gone to the station on Christmas Eve. We bake cookies. We go for turkey dinner. We make it work. This year we can't do that. And so that's been the hardest. Some of these were just good reminders that it's about the holiday. It's not about the day, which we all know that as Fire Family. But we've also been able to just take a little bit of the day, again, even if it was just popping in for a bite of turkey dinner. And we're going to try to potentially sneak a table outside or something. But, it's been frustrating, and I've gotten upset that COVID has taken the little bit that we do get with them on the day. So it's just a good reminder. So I just wanted to thank you for just the reminders of through the holiday and especially with the added COVID stress, to not to remember the true meaning. And we never know when this is our last holidays with them. So just take the time that we do have. So thank you for that, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Points well taken. Spot on. Thank you.
So Kelly, I do, 3 years ago, I read the Viktor Frankl book, and changed. Literally, I was sitting on the couch. I can tell you exactly what the room looked like. Completely changed my perspective on taking in life in general, especially having been married to someone who lives with some pretty significant PTSD. And so I decided to take on acts of gratitude. And I noticed that had a significant change both in myself and my daughter. I was hoping maybe you can discuss that as well, because I feel like during the holidays, practicing acts of gratitude in a household might be advantageous to mindsets and general attitudes. If you could talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. So I will say that with the disclaimer of it's one of those techniques that you have to practice for yourself. And if it doesn't work and it makes you feel worse, maybe stick with it one more time. But if it doesn't work, then don't feel bad because you can't practice acts of gratitude. But it's so one of the things that Atomic Habits talks about, or the way that you can sort of habituate into some of these practices, not just during the holidays, but throughout your daily life, are those little acts of gratitude that you can build in that also include doing something nice for a loved one in your home. So there's one example of maybe you don't usually make the coffee in the morning for your spouse, but that that's something that your spouse would appreciate in a way that you could show gratitude towards them. So it's a little habit that you could take on, that you could start doing in the morning. Just those little acts of kindness or little acts of service for somebody else that would be meaningful to them, but also that would be showing them how thankful that you are, that they're there for you. In addition, gratitude journaling can be incredibly powerful. Some people start their day before they even flip open their email inbox, and they send an email to somebody about something that they're grateful for. Again, the recipient might think it's a little bit of weird, especially if that's not something you're used to doing. Like, I'm sure if I started doing that, some of my coworkers or my husband might think there's something wrong with me just because it's very out of the ordinary. But it could be something that's incredibly powerful for you. Just to express that to somebody else can be very powerful.
I'll just tell you, in my home, when I started doing it, I then started doing it with I have a young daughter. We started doing it every night, and I made her be grateful for 3 things every day, even if it was a Slurpee that we stopped and had together. And so I noticed it working about a month later. Anyone who is really close to me knows that I tend to curse a lot when I drive, like a true person from Miami. And so I caught this red light, and my daughter was sitting behind me, and I probably, talked firefighter talk at the red light. And my daughter said, "Yeah, but Mom, it's the last one before we get home." And I realized it was in those gratitude exercises that everything was changing for both of us. So I'm grateful for you talking about thank you. It's been a profound experience for me. So anybody else have questions for Kellie?
I got a comment, or a couple comments.
Sam!
Sam is here. All right.
Who brought Sam?
Who brought Sam?
Kellie, I appreciated the topic tonight, and obviously it hits home in a lot of ways. I guess in a way your topic was it stimulated a lot of a lot of things that have happened to me around the holidays and as a responder. And I, like Michelle, probably delved into some of those while you were talking and while you're presenting. They do hit home. And, we'll not have to go into specifics, but I'll say I'm out of operations now. So I'm actually in administration. I'm in days. And my last call that I focus on around the holidays was a save. It was on Christmas Eve, just recently, actually it was 1.5 years, actually almost 2 years ago now, where a grandmother, basically, she was a complete code right in front of her family. And, it's one thing to have that happen in front of the family. It's another thing to have the entire family there for the holidays and listening to the sounds of that call. And I am so grateful that I was complete turnaround, complete ROSC. We were able to get her back. She was a 100% save. And so I have that going for me, at least as a one, at least pinnacle moment. But this is a great topic to go over right now, because I think what it does is it helps us all kind of connect on the fact that we have a tough job to do, and it doesn't make it any easier as we're going into this. This is a prophylactic or a preventative way to look at this going into this particular season here. One thing a couple things from the conversation was, I know now that if I use tactical with anything, I could probably make it sound really, really cool, which is awesome. So I don't know, maybe I don't know, tactical Cool Whip.
Yes.
I'm just going with something like that. Anyway,
Tactical
the other
nap,
thing was listening
tactical
to.
napping is another one. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but tactical napping is another one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Anything tactical, you know, absolutely tactical trash taking out, things of that nature. But really the law enforcement thing was pretty profound to me. It sounded like a prayer. It sounded like, you know, that's what it took on for me. And I listened to that had to be a law enforcement officer for sure. It certainly wasn't staged, but listen to the number of things that are going through somebody's mind. And we have the same set of, it's almost like we suppress all of that. But as I listen to the list, I got, this is what we're talking about. This is the immense pressure on our first responders on a regular basis. And I think it's important to hear that. And it also helps you appreciate what we all go through around the holidays. So thank you for the topic.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you.
I just wanted to add a perspective as a legacy fire family person. We had the 6th generation graduate from the academy last January, starting back in 1930s in Massachusetts through all those generations, and a big family that I came from where my dad was a firefighter. And then of course my siblings and sisters-in-law, and it's just in the blood. And I married a cop, so I had to move out. So that was the end of that. But I really, when I listen and hear what you have to say, and I'm so empathic to young couples going through this, I just have to tell you, I am forever indebted to my mother, who taught those habits of it's just another day and we're all going to be fine. And, you know, it is about this. It's about the birth of Christ. It's not, and my father's perspective, people still die, babies are born, it's December 25th. And that's just the way it was. My mom's blessing, though, was that she would sit down with this master calendar, look for the moons aligning and days off. And I could hardly handle my husband's schedule, much less she did all this. And she'd pick a date. Christmas is February 2nd this year. Christmas is January 18th. Christmas is, it was July 4th one time, I remember. That's when we had Christmas. And boy, they lived that philosophy. And I'm grateful I was able to pass it on to my kids for all the time, you know, that we were alone. And, you know, and like my husband said one time, you know, it's just the whole awareness of this total dysfunction that's out in the world. And it's not necessarily people that you would suspect. It's everybody. Is, you know, you bring together people who haven't seen each other in a long time, they're drinking and, you know, and then you're there arresting people and you've shot their whole Christmas because you're an awful person. So I'm grateful. My mom, with her, Christmas was a rotating holiday and it kept us all bound together. And that has perpetuated all the way through the generations, including my grandchildren, who are very grateful that, I don't know, we talk about it a lot. You don't have to shop. You don't have to, it's just wait till February. So.
Thank you, Mary, so much for that.
Thank you for sharing your personal journey, Mary. You have a lot of value to add to this group. And I'm very grateful that you shared with us. Very grateful.
I can tell you too, though, I have one other thing I have to add. It's an educational piece because I know everyone here has all of lived experience to put as their perspective and their stamp. And I appreciate those like Kellie who are taking their lived experience with their education and making a mark in this world. We need that. My bailiwick is suicide prevention in public safety, in fire and EMS and law enforcement. I work under federal grants to do that, FEMA and BJA. And I lost my brother to suicide. He died from the fire that burns within. And I just wanted to point out that although suicide seems like it's high at the holidays, it's because that's a terrible time. It's terrible. We will remember that. But the actual worst times of the year for suicide are in spring, and particularly May. That's when the numbers occur the highest numbers. So if you want to use data as your piece, it's spring. Personal experience may tell you it's the holidays, but I just want to throw that in.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Mary. That was kind of you to offer your personal story as a learning moment for everybody. So grateful to have you here. Thank you.
You can thank my mom.
Your whole family we need to thank. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mary. Does anybody else want to add some? No?
One thing, one thing that we do with our kids. So for those of you who don't know us, we're both first responders. He's a firefighter. I'm a division chief. And so we have two small kids, 7 and 5. And we recently implemented a highs and lows every night at dinner, regardless of, because he's still on shift. So even if he's not here, I still do it with the kids. And we just take turns and we go around. It's basically a gratitude, but we say whatever our high was for the day and whatever our low was for the day. And we don't even have to remind the kids. Usually they're like, oh, let me do my high lows. But it just gives us the opportunity to practice gratitude for the things that happen throughout our day. And if somebody can't come up with a low for the day, we celebrate that. And it's, I don't know, it's sparked a lot of really good conversation. And like I said, just gives us that opportunity to practice that gratitude. So I think it's a wonderful idea to, especially with our kids, help make them more mindful of just keeping that positive mindset.
Diana, I love that. And what I love most about that is you have that balance of the high with the low, because sometimes, if you don't acknowledge and give people that room to say that there is low too, and it's something you can be free to express and work through appropriately, you don't want to get stuck there. You probably don't want to spend a lot of time there because it can be a not so nice place to be in, but just being open and affirming and accepting of saying, yes, your day can have a full range of experience to great things and some pretty crappy things too. And the ability to talk about that, I think is such a great idea, especially with your kids. So bravo, good job.
Okay, and bravo, good job to our clinician awareness program director over there. So we're grateful to have her there. And she had mentioned that she's excited to get up into North Florida and work with you.
We are too. We
Yes.
cannot wait. And we cannot wait for COVID to move on so we can get the hot training done. Our departments are ready. Our department, some of my colleagues from Second Alarm Project, from UWF and from Escambia County Fire Rescue are on today. So we're ready and waiting here up in the Panhandle, that's for sure.
We are definitely having discussions behind the scenes on how we're going to start progressing forward and pushing out the CAP classes. So very grateful and very excited to get up in the north end of Florida. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop the recording. I just want to thank you one more time for your time, attention, but most importantly, your dedication and love for first responders, not only your own, but all of us across our state and across the country with everything that you're doing. Kellie is awesome at answering emails. So if you have any questions for her, definitely can reach out to her, and we hope to have her not only as a participant, but as another guest speaking appearance next year. So everybody have a great night. I'm going to stop the recording and we can continue our conversation.